Hello, this video is to discuss the Batch Report Scheduler feature in GAGEpack 13. Before we get into that though, there are three main concepts that we're going to discuss ahead of time so that the Batch Report Scheduler makes sense in context. So first, reports. GAGEpack has had a relationship with reports since the very beginning, well over 30 years. At its heart, if we go up here to the ribbon at the top and click on reports, this is a list of different types of reports that we can generate, and these reports all constitute information or details from your database. So something as simple as a list of all the GagePack users, we have some options for how to produce this information and how you'd like to distribute or share that information. For instance, there are three main ways to share. Preview, this will actually just generate what this report looks like on paper. That way I can print to a regular office printer, or maybe even to a PDF, or something else. So this is a simple example. Another way that we can present this information is either by email or by save to file. Both of these are going to be turning one of these reports into something that we can send and open. So I can pick out who I'd like to have this email be received by. I can fill in any additional notes or comments. And then myself, Eric, would receive an email with this report. So the reports have existed in GagePack really since the beginning. One other concept before we dive into the scheduler bit is the concept of Gage Mail. If we go up to File at the very top, we'll come down to Settings, and we can click on Global Settings and Gage Mail. Gage Mail exists as a way to automate some of that reporting features. So there's three main categories that we can send emails out for. Gauges that are coming due, anything that's overdue, and anything that might have failed its last calibration. So you can wire up and configure this so that it can be sent to individual people or groups of people. In other words, interested parties at regular week, day, even hour intervals. So this does have its limitations though, and that's where we're starting to get into the concept of today's video, which is batch reports with a scheduled reoccurrence. So if we click on the ribbon at the top, right next to reports, we have a button called batch reports. Batch reports has actually been included in GagePack also for a number of years. And this is our third and final kind of prerequisite concept before we jump into the scheduling bit. With batch reports, the idea is you may generate a large quantities of reports on a weekly or monthly basis. You can create what we kind of call a batch report, which might encompass many of those different reports. So the same idea applies. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a new name. I'll call this one example monthly reports. Okay. After that, we've given it a name. We can add to the list what reports do we want to generate. From our report dropdown, we can see it's the same list as we were looking at a few minutes ago, a list of all the different types of reports that we have in GagePack. So maybe we do want a list of all the GagePack users. Next, we get to choose where should this go? And it's the same three questions. Do we want to actually produce this and print it to the regular GagePack printer? Do we want to choose save to file, which is going to allow us to pick a spot, maybe on our local computer or maybe even on our network, where this new report file will live? Or do we want to have this be emailed to a particular person or group of people? So for each type of report, you really have a lot of control. Where does this particular report need to be presented? Printed, saved, or even emailed? So you can add as many reports as you may need. Let's add maybe a few more. Let's say I wanted to have a list of due for calibration this month. I would like the destination for this to be a file, and that file is going to live out on the network. I'm going to tell my users This is the location. If you ever need to see what is due for the month, you can check out here in this file. And let's add one more. Let's do one for calibration. Let's say performed. And we want to have that be emailed to Eric. And we're going to leave the prompts on this one alone. So I've just got 3 different types of reports. One's going to be emailed just to me, one is going to be saved to a particular location on the network, and the third one is also going to be emailed to me. Now the nice thing is you can always come back in later and determine, you know what, this should really go to management. So you can adjust these changes as you see fit. The key benefit is instead of me having to produce all 3 of these reports individually, I am now batching it all together so that it can be done as one job. I can hit OK. This new batch report exists. And let's say it's the beginning of the month. I'm able to come here and click Run, and GAGEpack will actually build all 3, all 10, all 50 of those reports that you might have in that batch. It will print the ones it needs to print, it will save to file the ones it's supposed to save to file, and it will email those that are supposed to be emailed. But you may notice that we have an extra 2 little columns here for last send and next send. This is a brand new one. I haven't really done anything yet to it, but if I click on this yet one more time to hit edit, this button down here, this is what this whole video is actually all about, which is creating a schedule or a reoccurrence. So instead of me having to remember to come into my batch reports and click the run button maybe once a week or once a month, I can have this scheduled by GAGEpack. So you get the same sort of options that you might expect inside of Task Manager or Outlook. You can schedule this daily, and you can pick a time. I can do it, say, weekly. Maybe I want it to be done every Tuesday. You'll also notice that we're getting some estimated delivery dates depending on which dates and options you choose. Or maybe you want something as simple as just monthly, the beginning of the month. So it'll be January 1st, February 1st. So once you pick, you can hit OK. And it still says it hasn't been sent yet, but the very first time that I get this fired up with my Gage mail, then it's going to run. And it will continue to run. It'll update this last send and next send every time it generates these reports and sends them to the desired locations. So the last bit of this puzzle is the batch scheduler, and specifically the scheduling part of the batch reports, it works in concert with your Gage Mail service. So if you've already got Gage Mail up and running, if you've already configured it and you are getting emails automatically from Gage Mail, this is just being tacked onto that. It'll continue to do both. If you don't use Gage Mail yet, but you'd like to in the future, or you just want to use this component, that is also fine. If you're not 100% sure on how to use Gage Mail or configure that, we have recorded other webinars in the past. Those are available on our user community, and you can access those by clicking on Help and the User Community button. So the batch reports and the scheduling component is new to version 13, and it's going to give you the availability to pick any of your reports and choose any destination you'd like, and also pick a particular schedule that works for you, your colleagues, and your company. Thank you.